You're listening to The Signal Daily. Hi, I'm Shaurbari, your host for The Signal Daily podcast. This is the episode for 24th June 2024. Today we're talking about India's mango market and what farmers are doing to preserve the authenticity of the king of mangoes, Alphonsus. For the main segment, Indian film and TV writers are pushing for copyrights over the finished projects. We'll be joined by Soumya Gupta, our in-house expert of all things media and entertainment for this episode. Stay tuned. If there's one thing I look forward to every summer, it's got to be mangoes. Refrigerated sweet mangoes make up for the harsh Indian summers, and we're so spoiled for choice, right? From Safeda to Langda to Totapuri and Sinduri, India boasts of at least 1,500 varieties of mangoes that are grown in different parts of the country, each with distinct textures and tastes. But if there's one variety that everybody knows about, it is Alphonso mangoes, aka Hapu's mangoes. The king of mangoes, they call it, and for good reason. Grown in the Konkan region of Maharashtra and some parts of Karnataka and Goa, Alphonsos have this delicious taste and scent unlike any other variety. But true mango connoisseurs will probably debate on which Alphonsos are better. The ones grown in the Ratnagiri district or the mangoes from the Devgarh village of Sindhudurg district. Anyway, if you are from India, then you already know that these mangoes come with a hefty price tag. If a kilo of an average variety comes for 100 to 150 bucks, 1 kilo of Alphonsos can easily cost you rupees 1,000 to 1,200. Now, if you are shelling out that much money for a fruit, then you better get your money's worth, right? But counterfeit Alphonsos have been a persistent problem in the mango market. Cheaper varieties are often sold to unsuspecting customers at high rates. Reportedly, Ratnagiri mangoes are supposed to cost 25% less than the Devgarh ones, but most customers wouldn't know the difference. Now, I don't claim to be an expert, but let me share a hot tip with you. If the mango's aroma doesn't intoxicate you, then it's likely not the best Alphonso. But anyway, for years, several tactics have been used to combat this issue. For instance, the Alphonso variety was granted a GI tag in 2018 to protect its authenticity and quality in the global market. GI tags also help with traceability and accountability in the food system, and in fact, a bunch of different mango varieties have been geotagged in India. There have also been other experiments like sticking QR codes and barcodes on the mangoes and marking them with edible ink. But according to ET, mango growers of Devgarh are now going one step ahead to ensure that customers know exactly what they're buying and who they're buying it from. So they are putting stickers on their mangoes with a unique code. Half of the code is visible on the sticker and the remaining half is printed on the back. So when a customer pulls off the sticker, they'll get the full code. And once they have the code, they can send the number to the Devgarh Taluka Mango Growers Cooperative Society, who will authenticate the mango along with providing details of exactly where in Devgarh the mango came from and who grew it. But will this certification settle the problem of counterfeit Devgarh mangoes? Well, let's hope tricksters don't find a way to bypass the unique code. In our second segment, we are going to bring you deep dives on stories from the world of technology, business, policy, and anything that leaves you with food for thought. The more things change, the more they stay the same. Ask Indian film and TV writers. Despite the arrival of international streamers like Netflix and Prime, and ensuing OTT boom and all that hullabaloo, Indian writers are still grappling with the same age-old demons. Paltry paychecks, delayed payments, no royalty payments or copyrights, unfair contracts, little or no say in project execution, and the worst of the lot, not even proper credits. The misery of writers is honestly a tale as old as time, except that it doesn't have to be so. If you recall, last year the historic strike called by the Writers Guild of America compelled studios and producers in Hollywood to accept writers' demands vis-a-vis better pay, streaming residuals, and AI. Incidentally, the Writers Guild was founded the same year as the Screenwriters Association, or the SWA, that is in the year 1954. The SWA is a registered trade union of Indian film and TV writers with about 66,000 members. Yet, unlike the Hollywood Writers Guild, the SWA has found little success in securing writers' rights. But things are about to change. Now, before we go ahead and discuss what the SWA is up to, let me just give you a brief primer on Indian writers' woes first. So, in the Indian film industry, writers relinquish any rights to profits on their work in exchange of a fixed fee. So, there are no long-term earnings from a particular project, which means, for example, if a movie is running in theatres again, as we're seeing with Rockstar, Zindagi Na Milegi Dobara, Dil To Pagal Hai, and Jab We Met, writers of those films are not making any cash. That's unlike the global standards. In the West, for example, writers earn money from the projects that they had written years ago every time one of them gets licensed, adapted, re-released, or syndicated again. Then there is the issue of delayed payments. Writers in India are mostly freelancers, and studios don't permanently hire them, which further skews the power imbalance. In India, studios insist on paying writers once producers approve the script instead of paying them as soon as the writer submits the first draft. And writing is anyway a lonely process. And as our in-house expert of all things media, Soumya Gupta points out in her latest 2-part report on Indian film and TV writers, payment terms like these make it that much harder for young writers to make a sustainable living. Then comes the fight for credits. In the West, the head writer of the show is credited as the showrunner and one of the executive producers, a title that comes with additional sources of income such as royalties and profit share agreements. But Indian writers have been pushing for the same. However, producers argue that the written by credit is more than enough. And as it is apparent, writers have little power to argue their case in front of the almighty producers. Now, as we said at the start, things are about to change. In the latest edition of The Impression, which I'll link for you in the show notes, Soumya reports that the Screenwriters Association is pushing for a legal framework that applies to all writers in the Indian entertainment industry. The SWA is planning to set up a copyright society which will ensure that writers retain IP rights over their work and get long-term royalties. Will this plan work out though? Hear it from Soumya herself.
What the SWA is attempting to do will be the second time a union of creative professionals in India will take collective action to demand a share of profits generated by their work. The first to do that was the Indian Performing Rights Society in 2012, when the Government of India unanimously passed an amendment to the Copyright Act. This amendment ensured that singers, songwriters, and composers are legally granted royalties to the music they make. So it is the IPRS's job to track where music is streamed and performed and ensure all artists get that check for their share of the money made from each stream and each performance. Now, it's early days yet, but the SWA's attempt at a copyright society for writers should ideally follow this model. It is also the one that the Writers Guild of America follows for paying residuals, another word for royalties, to their members for their work in films and in TV. This is also what they were demanding for their members on streaming as well. But this is not going to be easy for the SWA for several reasons. First, producers have a chokehold on the Indian film industry, and they may not cede control and power to writers' unions so easily. Second, the SWA will need to bring a critical mass of writers from across all Indian film industries, all languages. All of them will have to come on board for this project to be a success. And third, it is a painstaking and really costly affair to maintain records of where an IP is used, meaning where a song is being played, or in this case, where a TV show or a streaming show is being used. And then make sure that that record is maintained and that everybody involved in that project is fairly compensated each time. So this is going to be a very long road for a very ambitious project.
If you like listening to The Signal story, please show us some support. Rate us and review us on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. We'd love to hear what you have to say about this podcast. So feel free to shoot an email at hello@thesignal.co. This episode was researched, written and produced by me, Shorbari, and Anup Sembal. Edited by Dinesh Narayanan. Mastered and mixed by Yash Hirve. You can catch this podcast every morning on Spotify, Apple, Amazon Prime Music, or wherever you listen to your podcasts. We are thesignal.co on Instagram, LinkedIn, and Twitter.